Evening all. Are we all good? I do hope so. I'm fashionably late, as always. Although I am choosing to blame Claire for just not shutting up. She talks a lot. It's true, Delta, I do. I always shower before every stream. I don't know why, to be honest. It's just become a habit. It's because I want my hair to look good. Because I'm worth it. What little hair I have left. It's wet. Like, if I bend my head down enough, you can see my massive bald spot. Yeah, I took down the Christmas decorations yesterday. Very sad. I like having them up. I'd leave them up all year round if I could. Oh, good, thank you, Max. See, me and Claire are on the same page. We'd keep decorations up all year round because they look nice and make the house look better. And I mean, why wouldn't you? It looks nice. It's exactly that, Verstus, yeah. It's like the top of my head gets so hot that the hair just kind of melts away. Whereas like every bug is like another tuft of hair yanked out. Anywho, enough about my aging body. What have I been doing? Well, since Sunday, I've been working. No, hang on. What day was it? Wednesday. What day are we on today? Friday. Would have been Wednesday. So since Wednesday, I've just been going through bugs and fixing more bugs. So all of the customization stuff should be working now. There shouldn't be any weirdness. Apart from my choice of colours. So on the client, so the client is seeing all of the customization options, which is good. And then I have the same on the server, all matches. So if I change that to something completely random on the server, make the walls red, make that garish, can't see any UIs, but make them green. Then that should be exactly the same on the client, which is good. And also we fixed the things not updating properly. There's a bug with the color wheel in that you can see there it flicks across. So every time you open it, it kind of updates itself. And I've had to force it to do that because otherwise it doesn't update itself. But I think every bug we had with this is now fixed. So like we had it so that when you went up to the tabs, it reset the colors, and there was a whole bunch of weirdness going on, but all that should be absolutely perfect now. Yeah, so mission accomplished. But tonight, so I want to do more work on the task system and really kind of fleshing that out a bit more so that we're really expanding what is, I guess, the core gameplay of life aboard ship, and you know, having work, having jobs to do aboard the ship, you know, primarily for the NPCs, but also for the players as well. So if we open up our most recent test map, which was not that one. Oh, that makes sense, to be honest, Delta, because we're not actually triggering any of those events properly in multiplayer yet. Yeah. It's funny you should mention that, actually, first, just because I've turned off audio occlusion on the NPC voices because they keep getting occluded by things on the holo display, and I haven't worked out what yet on the holo displays occluding them, because collisions are off for literally everything that the holo display produces, and yet something is still occluding visibility for the audio whenever the holo display is up, and I can't work it out, but I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, so the voices are not occluding through the walls like they should do for that reason. So on Wednesday, we got this working so that these cables would break, tasks would be automatically raised for the engineering task list, and then they'll go off and fix the many problems that occur. So there they are, picking up tasks one at a time. Should be 5 in total. There we go, that was the 5th one. Yeah, so they're doing their jobs and they're clearing off tasks as they go. So, all good, all working. Oh, I did something earlier and I've lost the mouse cursor on the menu. So that's something else I've got to go and fix. Yeah, so that's working. So, we need basically all of that for every role aboard the ship. I think I'll do it on the test map first, so that we've got all of this in an isolated environment. And I'm going to get rid of a couple of those, so that we've always got more tasks than we need. Or more tasks than we have NPCs for. So I suppose the next step in the process is to create objects that generate locations for tasks. I'm trying to think through what roles on the ship we're going to be implementing, and in what order we're doing it. Engineering is always the obvious one because we've already got stuff there for engineering. But I'm thinking the next thing we'll develop like more fully is probably going to be the science labs and the probe room and sending probes down, receiving random objects in the probes, which then need to be taken somewhere. So we kind of need a stash system whereby the object is removed from the probe, placed in a stash, like a storage area, and then someone from the deck crew, be that a person or even a robot, comes and picks up that object from the stash and takes it to the relevant lab. And each lab, it will have its own stash as well. So we're moving that cargo around the ship autonomously. But we need to be generating tasks which are basically move this object to this location, and make sure that the NPCs are capable of doing that. So I guess that's probably the first thing to focus on, because once we've got that working, then we've got stuff for the science labs to actually do. And I might even have a go at sort of generating some probe stuff, or at least the logic for the probes. But we'll see how far we get with it. Ah, thanks, Delta. I thought I fixed the mission clock, but it must have dropped off again. It keeps appearing above where the screen should be, so it's actually in the wall. And yes, Jason. And you can't move it either. I think it's part of the character class that it has the positional arrow. I think it was from the character class, but yeah. Unfortunate, but true. We have hats, or a hat. I need to add more hats. Actually, on the hat note, because there's a bug ticket where the hair is removed if you're wearing a hat, because otherwise the hair protrudes through the hat. So what I need to do is I need to make a custom material for all of the hair for the NPCs and the character, so that if you have a plane which comes down over the character's head, which we'd put under the hat, then the hair gets made invisible above that plane. So we're essentially occluding the hair. So when you put the hat on, the hair doesn't go through the hat. But I need to make a custom material for all of the hairs in order for us to do that. Because if you're just sticking the static mesh for a hat on top of a head that's got hair, then obviously the hair's just going to poke through it otherwise. It's not as straightforward as it might first appear. Okay. So this is going to be another from scratch system. So basically we're making it up as we go along. Where are we? So we've got our departmental tasks. Where's that gone? There. I suppose this one's going to be in deck. I guess the other thing we need to do is give the NPC the ability to pick something up. Let's do a test a minute on one of these NPCs. So if we duplicate that one a minute, and we add this one to the deck crew, what I'm going to have them do just for testing is just randomly pick up an object. Which means they'll need a physics handle, or I suppose we'll just attach it to the NPC for now, might be easier. But we're going to have to give the NPCs the ability to physically interact with things, and make sure that that's also authoritative on the server as well, because that object then needs to obviously replicate its position. Which should be okay if we're not using physics. Getting the physics to replicate is always tricksy. Alright, so we add him to the deck crew, which we don't have on our role, so we need to add the role. Or did I add that on here? What struct is that? Yeah, eventually they'll have an inventory, because we need them to hold tools and things. So I guess we'll have an inventory belt and maybe some pockets, and from a planetary perspective, probably a backpack. But yeah, we do need the NPCs to be able to hold multiple things. We want to make it realistic as much as possible, so it's not the kind of game where you'll be able to pick up like a whole bunch of ore and carry it around. We'll have that handled by machinery. So the kind of things that the player and the NPCs will be able to pick up are going to be things which are realistically pick upable. So tools, which we'll have a tool belt for, and we'll have slots on the tool belt for different tools. Holsters for things like weapons, and anything else, it will be just you're holding it in your hands. Yeah, and 10,000 wheels of cheese, of course. Yeah, for something like the kitchens, maybe like a tray. We could have something where you can load the tray up with items and carry it around. I mean, we'll have things like trolleys as well within the game, so you'll have some kind of just a trolley with a handle and you can pile stuff on it and push it around, things like that. So you're not having to do one box at a time. So I'm trying to remember what we set up as our individual roles, unless it was the one on here. So that's just the stuff. I don't care about that. This one, so POI types. You know what would be nice as a UI nicety in Unreal is if, oh, you can, is if you could do that. Didn't know you could do that until literally that second. Thanks, Unreal. Appreciate it. Right, so he is now deck crew. Need to rename operations to deck so that we know who's what. Not sure why he's wearing an engineering shirt though. Weird. Okay. Yeah, so on the NPC then, we're going to have to have them do something different for the assigned role. That's way too many actually, so do it like this instead. So if they are deck, we're going to want them to do something specific. Otherwise, I'll carry on and do all the other stuffs that we were doing. I need to, at some point very, very soon, I need to start tidying this up a bit, because all this experimentation we're doing is obviously breaking their ability to go to the bathroom and that sort of stuff that we had before. So I need to kind of compartmentalize all this and collapse all the blueprint graphs into nice little comfortable nodes and get all the logic properly event driven rather than just spaghetti everywhere. But whilst we're experimenting, we shall make more spaghetti. Okay, so if they are deck crew, so we need to know where objects are in the world that are perhaps in the wrong place or need moving somewhere. So there's going to be complexity there, because if you just drop something in a corridor, then we need the deck crew to come and pick that item up and move it to where it needs to go, rather than it just staying in the corridor forever. But if you place an object like on a shelf in your quarters, we don't want the deck crew coming along and saying, oh, that's in the wrong place, and steal it out of your quarters. So we probably need things handled differently depending on not necessarily how they're placed, but more where. So we don't have things cluttering corridors. Although that said, one of the things I was looking at is the ability to fly the ship long distances without stopping, by storing fuel in separate canisters aboard the vessel. So you'd have the ability to like literally just fill up loads and loads of gas canisters and feed that into the reactor fuel tanks as required, as the fuel tanks keep running low. So you'd like stack them up in the shuttle bay or stack them along corridors if you wanted to. So you're literally filling all the empty space in the ship with just stacks and stacks of supplies, so that you could stock up with everything you need and then just travel a long distance to get to maybe something that's so far away there aren't any intervening stars. So there's nowhere to refuel. So in order to support something like that, we need NPCs to not come along and move those items. So perhaps there does need to be a distinction between dropping something on the floor and actively placing something with a purpose. So perhaps we'll handle that with the UI, and we'll have place or drop. If you drop, then there's a chance the NPC will just come and get it. Yeah, the Caravella will be fleshed out with all these systems first, before we put them in the Magellan, because the Caravella is small and easy to test on, and we wanted to use it as a small test bed where these things can be tested in isolation in a small ship, which is kind of the point of having it. But yeah, at some point, and like AJ says, it will be on one of the Sunday streams. Apologies, Dirty Beggar. I've also crashed many a ship in Space Engineers, so I feel your pain. Yeah, I think the issue there, Delta, is probably one of frame rate. So if the frame rate is low during the loading screen, or more specifically just before the game starts, then the reactor and the associated electrical stuff just lose sync. So for longer than a few ticks, like either the fuel didn't register or the electrical supply didn't register, something hasn't registered quick enough on the reactor, so the reactor's gone like, oh, I've got no fuel, and turns itself off. So we need to make sure that we put some safeguards in place for that. Yeah, handing stuff to NPCs is definitely something we need. Not yet, but yes. So if you want the NPC to go and do something, then handing them the thing that they need to do that thing with is definitely going to be something needed. Like hand them a crate and then say, take this to X lab or whatever. Yeah, so we do want that kind of interaction. But for now, we need them to just find something in the world and then go and pick it up. I think what I'll do, just to test this, and this will never work in a live environment, we'll just do get all actors of class, and then they'll pick the one prop that will exist. Again, you'd never do that in a live environment because that would be crazy. Let's find one which is bigger. Yeah, that would do. Pumpkin. So in order for it to save as part of the same system, save system, we need to generate an ID for it, which is a random number, and we need to generate a random seed. So we know that it's a unique ID, unique seed, so it will save wherever it's left. Now if I give it a tag, I guess we'll use prop for now, just for testing. I guess to begin with, let's just path over to it and then stop. Right. We want that. So we'll get the only thing that will be in the array, and then we want to, where are we? No, random location. Oh no, it is that one. I need to rename that macro because it's a little bit off-putting, because we're not walking to a random location, we're walking to a location. And and then do nothing else. So what should happen is the NPC should just walk up to the pumpkin and stop. Like that. Okay, so good. Did exactly what we wanted them to do. I like it when they behave. So then what we want them to do is take it somewhere. So we need to attach this to them. We're definitely going to have some multiplayer issues with this. But for now, if we just attach actor to actor, and that would be a reference to self. Yeah. So it's not going to pick it up or anything, it's just going to stick to their feet. And then we're going to random location in navigable radius. Give it a radius of 5 meters, and origin point would be get actor location. Okay, and then we will detach from actor, and then walk somewhere else within maybe 10 meters. Again, this is just for testing, just to make sure we can actually move the prop. So they should attach to themselves. Okay. Why is it not moving? I'm guessing we're not firing success. No, it's not that. Why are they not showing their debugs? Yeah, so we definitely do need a, if the player has put something here, don't touch it, because the player needs to have authority. What are we missing here? Doing that thing again where you need to start the game and then stop the game, and then you can copy the thing you want to copy. Yeah, there we go. Why have I not made that a macro yet? See how far they get. Okay, that would suggest that they're not picking up a point. I mean, the navigable radius is more than enough, I would have thought. Let's make the nav mesh bigger. Didn't think you needed that, but perhaps you do. Today we are going to make an NPC pick up a prop and put it somewhere else. Essentially, that's the goal. But then we need to make sure that we're taking props from a stash and then moving them to another stash, so that once we start bringing things up from the planetary surface, we can start storing the objects in a waiting area, and then we can have NPCs come and moving those props to the various labs that they need to go to. Which means we also need to track what science disciplines an object relates to, because it could be more than one, and then how much science has been conducted from 0 to 100% within that area. So if an item is, say, 50% biology and then 50% geology, I don't know, like a rock with some moss on it, then that needs to go to 2 different labs to be fully explored. Right, so why? Oh, you know what I'm not doing, because I am a moron, is I'm not actually telling the NPC to go anywhere. So we need a different version of this macro, actually. So we've got walk to, I guess, POI. Then walk to location. Needs to be a bit different. Yeah, so we don't need to know whether we're free roaming or not. We don't need that. Don't need that or that. We simply need to know where. So we don't need that. So we'll continue to check if the NPC is dead or not. Set our animation gate for ALS, and then we need to move the AI, blah blah blah, so we don't need that, we don't need that, we just need that. And then for those, really, we should be using our handy macro that we made. Which means we don't need that. There, it's a bit neater. So walk to location. Do the debug. And then walk to another location where we stop. All right. Now it should make a bit more sense. So we pick up the prop, move somewhere. Okay. I think the issue there is we've got it set to keep relative. So we want to use the world coordinates. That might need to be snapped to target, but let's try it a minute. Great. So pumpkin successfully moved, and I can still pick it up. Right, so the next thing like, what if I move the pumpkin? So like in those Boston Dynamics videos where they're constantly trolling the robots by like whacking them with sticks and moving their things out the way. We need them to be that robust. So once we've reached our location, if we get actor location and then get the location of the NPC, we do distance, this is going to get quite involved. So if that distance is less than their pickup distance, so let's say 0.5 meter, I guess we'll do that up here a minute. Yeah, so they'll check to see where that prop is. If it's within a pickup distance, we'll go ahead and pick it up and take it somewhere else. If it's not, then we'll display an error message. Like prop's moved. We shall wait a second, and then we'll loop back round to there. Where the NPC will try again. So if I go, it's mine now. Come and get the pumpkin. Come and get the pumpkin. Oh, 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 so close. And this is how the Terminator movie started. So I imagine it's probably getting distance from like waist height, because that's where the actor position is rather than the floor. So we need to check distances on that. So we say within 1 meter. Yep. Okay. Well, that worked. So they can successfully pick it up and move it. They can successfully not pick it up and move it if I move it for them. So yeah, that does lead to some hilarity, because you could just like throw the pumpkin out of an airlock and they will like blindly follow it out. But at a basic level, yeah. Yeah, it's okay if it's an NPC. They don't mind. It's part of their job description. Okay, so all that's working. What else? Well, at the moment, nothing would happen because their nav mesh is only extended to there. So if we make the region smaller, how big did I make it? Yeah, that's weird. Why didn't I put all that in the middle? And if we make that bigger to encompass the whole thing. Yep, so that should cover it. Even though it doesn't look like it does, it will cover it to the edge of the nav mesh. So yeah, if I throw it off, then the NPC... Oh, I didn't grab it quick enough. Pick it up quick enough. Try again. Beaten by the NPC. Give. Look at the pumpkin. No, no, no. Oh. He's like, I'm not stupid, you know. Because off of the ship is outside of the nav mesh, so he can't possibly go there. Right, so now we need yeah, this is quite easy actually, because we can create a stash with an overlap region. So what we're actually doing is we're querying whether something is in the stash or not. So we don't need to check the entire map, we just need to check that is something on a shelf in this instance. We need shelf slots. Let's just use a region on the floor for now. So if we add I guess a trigger volume. I don't generally use these very often. Let's try a trigger volume. So I'm assuming the class is trigger volume. Right, so if we... Oh, actually, no, it's fine actually. Could we tag this with, I don't know, probe, and then we'll make a copy of it and call it lab. Then what we want our NPC to do is check to see whether something is in the probe storage area. So rather than getting the prop itself, so we want probe storage area, and that would be a trigger volume. Right, so I won't bother with that for a minute. So we'll get the trigger volume, and then we will do get overlapping actors, and then we will get copy. We won't bother filtering classes on that. So we'll do a check in a minute to make sure it's empty, and we'll also make another one over there, and then we'll have a second NPC pick up the item from the probe itself. So let's make that probe stash, and then this one would be probe. So we'll have one NPC moving it from the probe stash, sorry, from the probe to the probe stash. Then we'll have another NPC moving it from there to there. So this is analogous to moving it between rooms aboard the ship. But let's just try this one first. So yeah, we'll keep the range check. So we'll attach the actor, blah blah blah. So rather than that, instead we need to now so that one would be lab, that one would be probe stash, we'll set this up as tasks in a minute, so they're doing it properly rather than just hard coding it. Let's get rid of some of these bits. Yeah, so get world get actor location, put that in there. Right, so he'll walk to the location of the lab, and then we'll drop off our object that we're holding. But I think what we'll do is we will store a reference to this. And just set that as carried object. And then over here we will get our carried object and detach from actor. We shall keep our world location, and ultimately that's it done. So oh yeah, it's the wrong class. Okay, well, he went to the right place. Did I skip attaching the actor? I did. Oh, because I didn't tell it which actor. That'll be why. So move it from that box, pick it up, move it to the other box. Great. So he's successfully moving the object between stashes. And I think I will put a box on the floor just so we can see that there is actually something there. I'm interested to see, is he going to put it in the middle of the stash or just like on the edge of it? Yeah, in the middle. Okay. Alright, so the next thing then, if we let's get rid of that for a minute. Move prop. Nice and simple. So that can go in there. Get rid of that. Move prop. Start tidying it up a bit. So after he's done his job, he will delay and then move prop. So basically, after having moved the prop once per second, he's now going to be checking to see whether there's any more props in that box. So once it's arrived, if I now... Why are they going over there? Excuse me, where are you going? What are you doing? There's nothing over here. That's really weird. What's also weird is I can now no longer grab it. I'm wondering whether that's a block on the collisions. Are we blocking visibility? No, we're not. Let's just do no collision, just to be sure. Yes, they will be on shelves. I'll be doing the shelves in a minute. There we go. Yeah, it was a collisions thing. Right, so if I move it back to there, then after they're done randomly for some reason walking over there, they should come back and move it back over there again. Yeah, I think you're right actually, Madman. That must be where the 0, 0, 0 point is, and I think you're right, that is where it is. So that, in fact, does make complete sense. Which means we need a couple of outs on some of our fail states. So if we yeah, so basically anywhere where we have a failure state, we need to check and just loop back round. So we shouldn't right, yeah, that's where we need the check here, isn't it? So if that is a valid, oh no, not that one. If that is a valid index, no, if that is a valid index, if it's not, then we'll just do nothing. Right, that should fix that. So basically we're saying if there are no overlapping actors, wait a second and check again. And if for any reason the pathing fails, then to wait a second and try again. Potentially an ASCII, yeah. I need to see what state it's in. Right, good. So he's just standing there with nothing to do. Why are you going back over here? What are you picking up? Oh, it's overlapping the cube. Which you can't move because it's set to static. So let's put the pumpkin there. What? What? No idea what happened there. Give me the prop. Okay, well, that's working as intended. Yeah, I think it was. I think because I'm attaching the actors together, it attached the character pawn to the pumpkin at a weird angle. Very weird. And if I turn it upside, turn it on its side, try that again, just for interest's sake. Yeah, that must be what it is. Weird. Interesting, it hasn't re-enabled physics on the object. So we will have to make sure we do re-enable physics just so that it then drops back down. What if I make it upside down? I'm kind of fascinated now. Exactly as I expected. The pumpkin is simply being attached to the pawn, so it is neither flying nor teleporting. It's simply attached. Yeah. Yeah, I might actually have the inputs the wrong way around. That would explain it, actually. Oh no, no, so the parent actor... Oh, that is the right way around. So we're definitely attaching the pumpkin to the pawn. Let's unweld them and see. So why is the wake event not working? Probably going to need to yeah, get the static mesh in order to wake physics, but that's fine. It's not needed for the minute. Ah, see, it's not welding now, so it's not going to be able to pick it up. Interesting. So one actually, I imagine it might be an ALS bug, which wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Because if we view collisions, show collisions. Alright, do it from here instead. Yeah, that one, yeah. So I imagine the capsule component of the pawn stays exactly where it is vertically. So if it's just the static mesh, just the skeletal mesh that's moving like that, that could very well just be an ALS bug. Yeah. We haven't even started with animations or anything like that yet. I know the whole capsule's moving, so it is rotating the whole actor. That's unexpected. Okay. Yeah, but we are attaching the pumpkin to the pawn, so that is strange. What I might do, right, if we add a hold location to the pawn, then what we can do is we can actually move the object there first with the correct orientation, and then attach it. Yeah, the problem with making it local is that it moves it somewhere else entirely. Hang on, I'll show you. So if we do keep relative, then what happens is the pumpkin will disappear and move somewhere else. At least that is what was happening. Yeah, see, it goes over there. What we can do though is snap to target, give that a whirl. Yeah, it is bizarre. It might be something to do with ALS. I find that a lot of the issues I have with the character system are because of ALS doing something weird, which is why I want to get rid of ALS as soon as possible. I'm not going to use a socket, so I'm going to keep world. Because what we'll do is we'll do the hand eye key based on the object being in front of the character. So I don't want to stick it specifically to a socket. Although, actually I do, because if the character's bending over, then we do want the socket to move, don't we? Right, we will do that. So if we take our character mesh, which is not that one. No, not that one. Although saying that, the skeleton should be the same, shouldn't it? Where are we setting our meshes? Well, I did want to add pumpkin hats as a Halloween thing, so yeah, you never know. Customization. Should be doing it from there. Yeah, so materials, stuff. Hair, blah 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 blah. I'm used to all this being on this side. They've obviously hugely improved how animations and characters and things work in Unreal over recent versions, but I don't understand most of this at the best of times, so it is somewhat like poking around in the dark. But we want, yeah, I think that bone, and if we add, no, we want a new bone, we want a socket. Give me a socket. Where do I add sockets from? I'm sure you could just right click and add socket on there. Yeah, if someone knows how to add sockets on here, please do shout out. Because we are using some sockets on the player character. So I'm looking in the wrong place. The bone itself. Ah. Right, yeah, so I got that socket there. I think it was... Why have we switched over to that? Oh, now it's coming up. Weird. I guess if you click Edit Skeleton... Oh, yeah, that's what it is. If you click Edit Skeleton, you lose the ability to add sockets. Right, that makes sense. Add socket, there we go. That's what I was expecting to see. Right, so if we put a socket like there-ish in front of the character. Okay. And we call that hold. Yeah, hold location. Right, then we can snap to the socket instead. I see Danger Mouse has Tourette's. Yeah. Gravity guns are a cop-out, though. Although it would be easier. Right, so if we snap to that socket, let's make sure I did actually call it that. Hold location, yeah. See whether that works. Yes, a new character system is very much on the cards, but it's just a case of when. Yeah, I was hoping I could snap straight to the socket, but unless I attached a component. Let's try spelling it all, shall we? Attach actor to components, and if we get our mesh and then hold location. See whether that works. Oh, it did work. Okay, so they're like literally shoving it along, but that did work. Obviously the physics need to be disabled on the prop. Typically. Okay, so we need to be able to lock the physics. Well, they're saying that we are... yeah, so if we attach it and weld it, then the physics shouldn't be used anyway. So let's just make sure that we have the ability to do so. We did have an event that we were using for wake up. Alright, we're not actually using that for anything, so let's make sure that we wake that. actually need that one. Yeah. Oh, so hopefully Wake will do it. But then we also need a sleep version of that. That's what I was doing before, so let's see whether that works. And make sure that we set the NPC to do that. So we need to kind of rely on the fact that it's going to sleep immediately. If that's not happening soon enough, then we'll just disable physics on it instead, and then that should wake it up. No worry, Vulcan. Have a good one. Yeah, okay, so that's not putting it to sleep fully, so hang on, let us be gone with some tabs. So set enable. We could just turn gravity off, I suppose, but let's just get rid of physics entirely for a minute. So turning off physics, putting it to sleep, and then the opposite of that when we wake it back up again. Now, it might just stick in place. Oh no, we're good. Okay, we didn't need to put it down like that. Do you kind of get the impression that she really hates her job? She's like, fine, have your pumpkin. Yeah, so what we'll do then is before we attach anything to anything, we will set our world rotation. Actually, no. If we set our relative rotation. Hang on. Right, if we get world rotation of our character. Hang on, I'm going somewhere with this. Right, and then we set actor rotation on there. Then what we can do is actually no, that should do it, because we want the prop to be facing the same way as the character and be the same way up as the character. We will teleport physics because we haven't turned them off yet. So hopefully they'll pick it up in the right direction. I think that's the angle that the socket is at. So if we don't do snap to target, we'll just keep world. Although that's probably also going to inherit the rotation of the socket, so we need to make sure we rotate that 90 degrees to the right. No, okay. No, that's not working. Right, so keep that as snap to target then. And we will rotate that 90 degrees that way. There we go. Okay, so the question is, does that fix the weird angle problem? No. Which is interesting because we're setting the rotation of the object before picking it up. Let's give it a 1 tick delay, just to give it a chance to do the rotation before picking it up. When you say merge the transforms, what do you mean? I want to see whether this is actually doing the rotation or not. So we are see in a multiplayer environment we might not have authority to do this, so it's probably gonna fail on a client, but let's just see whether it's actually doing the rotation. So it should rotate. So it's 90 degrees off axis for some reason. Interesting. So if we do rotating prop, and then our picking up prop, right, so we're only interested in the yaw, really, because we want the pumpkin to face the same way as the NPC. But X and Y should be 0. We could always use get forward vector and do it that way. Let's just give that a try a minute. It's interesting because it seems to think that the player is the pawn is facing the other way, which is intriguing. So if we stick that like that, so interesting. Yeah, we need to change some of those error messages there because we're saying the same thing every time, which is not helpful. Yeah, so nothing in stash is really what the error is there. That one is truly failed to reach prop. That one is can't reach prop. Oh, one more specific, prop too far away. That one is unable to reach location. And that one is waiting for you prop. Let's get a clear idea of exactly what's going on here. Right, so nothing in stash, right? That's normal, so that's what we want to see. Okay, so nothing in stash. Prop too far away. Failed to rotating prop. Ah, okay. Ah, nah. So let's just stick a delay in there a minute, just so I can see what the NPC is doing immediately before trying to rotate that. So we shouldn't be getting to the attachment point until everything else has been sorted out. So rotating prop there, picking it up, right, okay. Yeah, they're being disabled, I think, beforehand. I will double check. Okay. Successfully reached rotate. Ah. So that was interesting. The NPC flipped before attaching. No, you're right. I am sleeping, but that should have gone there. Yeah, sleep was on the wrong side. And we will also delay that by a single tick just to be sure that it is actually doing it. But why did the NPC flip? Hey, Zogbox. Okay. Okay, so it was after here. Oh, that's weird. So I'm going to skip the attach bit entirely. Hey, Spudgun, Happy New Year. Okay, so there's no flippage going on here, so we'll wait for him to do that again. Take the prop, wander off. Oh, and of course I can't click it because we have that. So to not ignore everything, but we want to overlap. Yeah, just world dynamic should be enough. Now it's not overlapping that because for some reason it's not set to world dynamic. Do we have a prop channel? No, we don't. Shouldn't be world static. So it's set to movable and it is a world dynamic object. That'll be why. So we want query only, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I can pick it up now. So I now, oops, press the right button. Yep. Okay, so the flip is happening without any attachment involved. That's even weirder. And the culprit has been found. Because what we're doing, we're getting the rotation of the POI. And of course, we're rotating the actor to that. So that would explain it. So again, we only want the yaw. We don't want the pitch or the roll. Ideally, to be honest, we need it to not do that at all, but I think what I'll do, we'll keep this as walk to POI, because we're specifically telling the NPC, when you get to the point of interest, you need to be facing this way so that you're interacting with the thing you're in front of. So that needs to stay. So if we duplicate that, yeah, actually we'll just use walk to location and grab the location of the object instead. Thank you, Spud. No, I didn't do the 4-1. Yeah. Yeah, I was done. After 24 hours of solid deving, I was done. Okay, so we will still do this because we do still want the prop to face the NPC direction, so that's fine. Don't need to spam that. So if we turn that upside down, this time we shouldn't have an upside down NPC. Hurrah! Well done, NPC, well done. Good job. So we want prop interaction on the ship to be analogous with VR as much as possible. So things like being able to just stack cups. It's a silly thing, but it's nice to be able to do. And there's a certain amount of, I don't know, sort of one-to-one interaction with the world when you can pick up an object in the world and manipulate it as if you were in VR. So we want the first person interaction with the world to be as one-to-one as VR as much as possible. So we want the two modes to be as similar as we can. Which means we do need physical prop interaction. So as nice as it is to be able to just lock an object to the character's hand, because that looks best and it's, well, yeah, it just looks the best. You don't get the same amount of physical interaction, because then you're just putting it down. But we can probably do a middle ground where we have a physics handle, so you can still use the physics handle to move props around, but then we manipulate the hand IK so that the hand will go to the prop rather than the prop going to the hand. So you still get that feeling of being able to just pick something up and chuck it around, but the character's hands will, lock to it as you move it about. So it's kind of an in-betweeny system, but we'll see how that works. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So I suppose the next thing we need to do here is we need to create a shelf actor that has slots. Now we do have a really rubbishy shelf mesh, which is just an asset that I downloaded yonks ago. Looks awful, but it will do for now. If I can find it, of course. Shelf. Is it that one? It wasn't that one, but that might do us. There's like a freestanding one. Oh no, that's one I made. We'll use that, that'll do. Okay, so we need an actor for shelving that we can have slots that are predefined slots where things get put, which means there's going to be like an upper limit of how many objects can be stored in a storeroom or a storage area, which also means that if all the shelving units are full, then the NPC does need to just drop the object on the floor. So yeah, I think they'll fill up all the shelves first and then just start dumping stuff in the room but on the floor. Because otherwise, like, where do we put it? So if I do this, so I'm tempted to put it in the deck system. I'll do it here for now until we have somewhere more logical to put it. So if we just have like a shelving unit master class, and then any other different types of shelving unit can parent from this, or child from this rather. So we want a static mesh, which is going to be our shelving unit. And then that one was called SM Shelf 2, which I'm hoping has decent enough collisions. Yeah, so if we remove those, make sure we're using complex collisions. So no simple collisions, that's it. And we've just got shelves. Great. And then I suppose the next question is, how big are they? Because that might need to change. Certainly not big enough for a pumpkin. I guess that's another challenge with the ability to bring things up from the planetary surface, is those things need to fit on shelves and need to basically adhere to a certain size. Okay, yeah, so that is kind of small anyway. Has that got reverse faces? Oh yeah, it's the wrong way around. Alright, so I reckon probably about another 50% again, scale-wise. So if we do 1.5, that would fit a pumpkin. Yeah, so we just need to make sure that all of the shelving in the game fits the scale of everything, and that the objects that we generate are always going to be small enough that they'll fit on a shelf. Yeah, I guess that's about big enough. Change the material on that because it's very metallic and thus very black. Okay. Yeah, we're going to be pushing it, to be honest. Because the shelves can't be much taller than that, because obviously the character needs to be able to see and reach. So that pumpkin is probably as big as anything's ever going to get in terms of a surface sample. So things like maybe like an ocean sample would be like a glass canister. That glass canister cannot be any taller than the shelf space we provide. Although we can always have different classes of shelf, I suppose. So we'll have big shelves for big objects. I suppose we can do that. And then have maybe little cubby holes, or like an IKEA Kallax unit for smaller objects. So we are going to need probably an interface for sending messages to check capacity, to check whether or not anything's on any shelf space, and then sending the NPC to the location in front of that. So if this is a shelf spot, we need 2 locations. One, this spot to place the object, but 2, the place the NPC needs to stand in order to place that object. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 locations for putting up a thing, all 4 of those will have, I guess, standing slot 1. And then depending on how many objects we can fit, I guess maybe 2 per segment. And we'd have standing spot in the middle, so each of those 2 would be served by 1 place for standing. Which means they'll need a struct. Okay, oops. So, as with this one, we still need to handle stocking. So we still need an analogy for a probe coming in and having something in it. Although, I guess we can use the same NPC for that and prioritize emptying probes to there, and if there are no probes, then start shipping stuff out to where it needs to go. And then, like we have with the tasks on here, we'll have a task reservation where each NPC kind of reserves the tasks, or rather assigns the task to itself. So if there's only ever going to be one thing in one probe, so if an NPC has assigned itself that probe, then the other NPCs will focus on this job instead. Yeah, well, we also have like the animation side of thing to think of. So if we're putting an object up on a shelf, we don't want the NPC to be standing here and reaching up if the object's appearing over here. So we need at least 3 slots, I would say, to make the reaching up animation like believable. It's not going to be perfect, but it needs to at least be believable. Yes, Danger Mouse, ultimately, but, well, I suppose this can work 2 ways, really. Because we need to think about the NPCs using the shelves, but also players using the shelves. So the cleanest way is you have snaps. So the object snaps to a position on the shelf, and that's where it sits. Because if you put an object, let's say this pumpkin, calm down, camera. Right, so if we put this pumpkin here, then we can fit, say, 2 pumpkins per segment. So that's how the NPC would place them. Now, if, as the player, you put the pumpkin there in the middle, now the NPC is going to try and put it in one of these slots. It's not going to know that you've got a pumpkin there already. So we need to make it as jank-free as possible, and the best way of doing that is having it so that when you put things on a shelf, they snap to a slot on the shelf. Because that way, both players and NPCs can use the same shelving without there being any crazy overlaps and things not appearing in the right place. For a normal shelf, like inside your crew quarters, if you're just putting a prop down for decoration purposes, I'd say that's different, because the NPCs don't need to worry about that. But when it's a system like this, where NPCs are specifically using these shelves for moving items from place to place, then in that scenario, you really do need some control over what can go where. Otherwise, there's going to be conflict between players and NPCs. Fights are going to break out. But we can do this with the shelves. So right now that should work in terms of that NPC grabbing stuff off the shelf. Assuming they can reach it. Yeah, so there's going to be an acceptance radius there as well. Let's increase that because that's going to cause a problem. So when we walk to location, yeah, there we go. So just make sure they can actually reach the end of their path. This is why we need that place on the floor in front of the shelf, because the NPC is saying, right, I'm at the location, but now I can't reach the prop. So if I remove the check, they should be able to just go yoink. So another issue is because we've placed that shelving unit there. Of course, that's part of the nav mesh, so we need to make sure that we build the nav mesh around that so that they don't try and walk through the shelf, because they're a bit stupid like that. And of course now the problem is they are unable to reach the location of the object because the nav mesh has a hole in it where they're trying to get to. So obviously these objects are somewhere they cannot navigate to. So we need to pick the closest navigable point to that object. Which we can do. Okay, so we need point in navigable not quite sure what that does. Closest navigable. Yeah. There really needs to be a way of getting the closest point to the vector you want to get to. So closest point in navigable radius. Very reachable. Yeah. So if we take our location of our prop object, which we're grabbing, and we give it a meter's radius around the object, then hopefully it'll be able to pick a point that it can actually get to. Because that's the one I normally use. Or is it because we haven't got a class? It also might be that a meter is too far away. Because it counts vertical distance too, not just horizontal distance. So it's the distance between the pumpkin and there. So what we would have, so having set locations for the shelving unit means that we can put that where they can get to. So that solves the problem, you know, in the long run. But for this particular test, it's probably easier because I think the location of that, so that's 150 up, so there should be 0. I think it's 0. How high are you up? So floor level is 50. Okay, so what we can do is we can game this for a minute. If we set that being at floor level, so the X and Y can stay the same, and then we'll set that to 50. So we're actually, our origin point for our check is on the floor. Okay, let's widen our search. Let's go for 2 meters. No, not 20. Assuming this node is working. I've never used it before, so I don't know. Nope. Okay, so let's go with the old faithful one that I usually use. There we go. Okay, so he should now clear that whole shelving unit of pumpkins. Obviously he's going to the wrong side of the shelf, but that's because, oh, how is he going to deal with that one, I wonder? Probably ignore it, because it would have fallen outside of the nav mesh thing, the overlap. So he doesn't know about this one. So if I put it back on the shelf, no, on the shelf, no, although, yeah, it would have already triggered as being in the box, so he was able to go grab it. Okay, so if I put this one like under there, would it fit under there? No. Yeah, we're probably going to need a carry offset for each object, because the socket is kind of there in front of their chest, but the origin for the pumpkin, I imagine, is at the base of the pumpkin. Yeah, so we would need a carry offset depending on where the base of the object is. Although, that said, we can just lower that down a bit. So if we were to move that maybe to there. That should look a little less silly. And what we need to do is set the overlay on the NPC to the carry animation, because they do have one. Should be like a box. Box. That one. So when we do the attach, we'll set the overlay state at box, and then when we do the release, I need to set that to default. That should look a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Now they're carrying a pumpkin. It's a very heavy pumpkin, obviously. Right, so that's working on a very, very basic level. Obviously, she's no longer waiting to be like actually in the correct location. As soon as she's like within 2 meters of it, she'll just chuck the pumpkin. But the location that she'll be going to in order to pick up the object, we'll set that in a minute to be more stable. But that's where we need those slots, because when we actually have our drop-off point, which will be there, we need her to be picking just a random point on the shelves. If you really wanted to make it exciting, you can add impulse. Oh, can we not do that on there? Oh, of course we need to do it on tick, don't we? Purely a test, but let's see. Can we make the NPC chuck it? It might do anything, not do anything, because it's we're not doing this on tick, but we'll see. Nope. Although interestingly, that might have solved the chucking problem in and of itself. Yeah, it did. So we're actually nullifying the physics velocity. It's not a bad shout, actually, Danger Mouse, yeah. Right. So, next job is make the shelves actually shelves. So, rather than getting these random things, I don't want to do that anymore. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to actually set these up properly and take things off of a shelf slot and put it on another shelf slot. So they should walk back and forth between the shelves, removing pumpkins and placing pumpkins. So we need slots. And I guess the easiest way to do that, if we grab another static mesh. Yeah. And make it really, really small. So if we say, so that, all right, let's go with 37 as our height, and then I want it to be about there in the middle. So if we say minus 1.5. In fact, even better, if we make that our pumpkin model. which looks way bigger than the one we're using. It's more about what we're dealing with. Right, so we'll give it a bit of breathing room for the collision mesh. Okay, so let's make a bunch of these. Because we'll well, I suppose actually yeah, we'll need to, I guess, pre-position these into an array of some kind. So I'll use the pumpkins for now, but then I'll replace them with, oh actually no, we can do it with collision thingies. Sphere collision, there we go. We can use that as our marker. And the reason I'm using the pumpkins is obviously the origin point for the sphere is up there, and the origin point for, I imagine, most props is probably going to be at the bottom. So let's probably not far off what we want size-wise. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll use the location of these spheres, so I'll just set them up as named slots. So that would be slot 1, so we just stick with those for now. We've got 6 slots on there. So we need to know, I suppose, what is in each slot. And we also need our floor location as well. So if we add a capsule collision, so we can set this up to be the same as our character. So that has a half height of 92 and a radius of 23. So 92, 23. So that's basically our character. So then we just need to position this accordingly in front of each shelving unit. So we'll call that player location 1. Oh, actually, no. NPC location 1, because the players won't care about this. NPC location 2. I'll try and middle them as best as possible. So I think what we'll actually have is, I guess we'll split these shelving units into sixes, eights I suppose if we're using underneath too. So those ones are all assigned to this location. Those ones are all assigned to this one. So we'll have 2 per location. Yeah, we're going to have to do some cross assignments so that when the NPC queries the shelves and says, do you have anything on you for me? The shelves need to reply back with, yes, there's an object in slot whatever, you need to stand here. And make sure it tells the NPC to stand in the right place in order to retrieve those objects. So whether or not we're adding or placing, we need to do the same as well. So if we're querying the shelves to say, do you have a spare slot? Then the shelves say, yes, there's a slot there. Then we need to make sure the NPC stands there to deposit their item. And yeah, so on our recast nav mesh, we need to make sure we set the radius of our agent to be the same as our capsule. Offset, isn't it? Yeah. Because that location needs to be inside of the nav mesh in order for the NPC to actually physically reach it. We kind of have this problem with doorways. Like the doorway has too much area where there's no nav mesh. Are there any agent details here? Let's look at the project settings a sec. Oh yeah, we've got 23 there. Try bringing that cell size down a bit. almost. Actually, that might be just enough. That's about as much as we're going to get. Let's just try getting rid of that in a minute and rebuild it from scratch. Yeah, that's about the best we're going to get. I shall look into how I can get the nav mesh closer to objects, but it should be using the radius that we're giving it, so it knows how close can that object get to the shelves, for example. So if you cannot stand any closer than that, then the nav mesh needs to end in that point. So if we move that out a bit, and that out a bit, and that out a bit, that should put them on the nav mesh. But we shall see. Okay. So I guess to begin with, these objects are not going to be assigned to a shelf slot, because they're just placed there arbitrarily. So when we do it as the player, we're going to have to make sure that we do that snapping activity. That's a whole other system in its own right, getting it to recognize and snap. I guess on overlap, when you let go of the object, it needs to snap it. So for now, we'll do an overlap check on these collision spheres instead. So these three need to have no collisions at all, because they're just there for the purpose of giving us a location. So that's fine, so no collisions on those. And then this lot, yeah, they should be overlap only. But not block anything, so overlap all, but ignore that. While I was saying that, let's ignore all that too. So we only care about physics objects or props. And just for testing purposes, we're just going to see whether or not it can actually sense the fact there are props on it. So we'll have to do this anyway. Yeah, so this is going to work for putting objects back for now using physics. So for each one of these, we have to sequence this. Get overlapping actors, and then is valid index. So that's true. We want to print text specifically because I want it to output which slot has what. So slot 1 so we'll get a copy of whatever is there, and we'll just grab the name of that object. So if there's anything on slot 1, we report that fact, and then we need the same thing for every other slot. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if there's nothing on them, obviously this will skip. Okay, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So right now, all of them should be reporting the name of a pumpkin, like so. They're also reporting the shelving unit itself, so we need to make sure they don't do that. So the shelving unit needs to be world static and block everything. Oh, apart from that, because that would be bad. So they should only be reporting, that's better, just the pumpkins, not the shelf. Right, so if we remove the pumpkins from the shelf, then yeah, so only slot 6 is reporting. Take the pumpkin away. Nothing's on the shelf. Put one back. Then it thinks there's a pumpkin in slot 1. Okay, so that's how we track what's on the shelf for now. Let's grab these cables a minute. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Right. So blah 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 blah. We know what's on the shelf. That's working. Okay. So from a usability perspective, then we need to start converting this into a data structure of some kind. So we're going to need a struct for which slot relates to which standing point. So we need what's the best way of doing this? let's make a new struct a minute, and we'll kind of think it through as we go. Okay, so we need a slot location, which is going to be our vector. So slot location standing location. Actually, let's call it NPC location. I guess we'll give it a name so that we can use that for reporting. And that can just be a string. So slot name, slot location, NPC location, and we'll just add that dynamically. And then we'll need I guess just prop actor, which is going to be a simple actor object reference. So when we're checking for availability, we can check to see whether or not the actor is valid. Because if there are no valid actors in the slot, then we know the slot is free. But I'm going to put a boolean there for now. We might not need to bother with the boolean, we can just use the actor presence, but yeah, we'll give ourselves a boolean in case we need one. So we therefore need an array, so we call that shelving slots, and that we struct shelving unit and make that an array. Okay, so on begin play, I think what we'll do is we will make our array for our 6 current slots. Actually, there's a more sensible way of doing this, isn't there? We'll do a for loop instead. Right, so we will add to the array, and then we'll make the struct. So the first thing we do, we can make that, so if we do make literal string, call it slot space, and we shall append that. Which means the first one's going to be slot 0, but that's fine. This might not work because we need to get we could go through the components. Let's try try it a minute. So that would be slot 0, slot 2, slot 3, and then what we'll do is we'll do this from our array index for identifying which slot we're dealing with. So get child component sure we could get the tag get child. Not going to help, is it? We'd have to loop through the array of child components. So we could do get children. And then we'd have to get the tags and see whether the tag matches. Yeah, that's way too much faffing about, so I think what we'll do instead is we will have to literally do it one by one, but that's fine because actually we can do that on the construction script because this is our initial setup where we're defining what goes into each slot, and I can't do this. I can't do it from here because we need the vectors of these, unless I like type them in manually, which I could do, I suppose. But if I move anything around, I'd have to go and manually update it again. So I think we'll just do this. So we don't need any of that. So slot 0. So we will have to get world location. What? Get location. Weird. I don't know why I was doing that. And then we know that that's going to be that one. And then we'll start them with slot empty being true. And then prop actor is none, so we can just leave that blank. Right, so that's our first slot, so we just need to do that 5 more times. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then what we can do is, because we're adding these at array index 0, array index 1, we can reference them via their array index rather than having to worry about name or anything like that. Okay, so slot 0, Why don't I have a slot 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's about to check that they're actually the right ones. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we know the last two are NPC location 3. No, no, not that one. And then the middle two are NPC location 2. And those are NPC location 1. Right, so that should be our shelving struct array done. So then what we need to do then is we run our constant check. So we're looking at whether or not anything's in the slot. So we'll grab our overlapping actors, and I guess we don't need that. So to get a reference to 0, I suppose whichever way we do this, yeah, and then just set members. So we don't need to redo the slot name location, so we need prop actor and is empty. Let's kind of make that as condensed as it can be. So if there's a valid index, and it's not empty, and that's the actor. Yeah, otherwise we'll set that actor as empty. So we need to do this on all of them. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to move all these down. Actually, I'll start with the bottom one. So for each of our 6 slots, we are basically a blueprint interface for dealing with shelving units, but generally navigating stuff around the ship. I suppose we could make... Alright, let's just make a BPI shelving for now. Again, this might change and be updated over time. Oh, that's not good, Jason. Oh, thank you, MaxQ. I shall go back and fix that. Well spotted, thank you. Right, so we want, I guess, a check for props. Shelving. And we also want check shelving space. Names to be decided at some point. Right, so check for props. So we're gonna output on this one rather than an input. So really, yeah, we want to output a shelf slot because this contains all the vectors and things that we care about. And I suppose on this one we need the same thing. So that would be that's our occupied shelf slot, and that one's our empty shelf slot. And also we need again, is full or shelving full. So if the shelving is full, then that's where we get the NPC just to drop the item at the shelving unit. So we'd pick the first slot and then use that location for dropping. And then similarly on this one, we need the shelving empty. So if the shelving's empty, there's no point pathing to it. Although I think, again, if the shelving's empty, we'll path to the shelves and then have the NPCs kind of go, it's empty. So obviously they don't know that it's empty until they've physically checked it. So we still want them to go there and see whether it's empty. Alright, so that's those. The way these work with blueprint interfaces with outputs confused me for ages. They work differently to when you send data. So on here we need to implement the interface, which was shelving. Oh. Let's try that again. It's better. So with this, we actually use those functions differently. So we're actually sending data back to the caller for this. So I suppose we need to be tracking whether or not the shelving is empty. I suppose the best way to do that is we will grab our shelving slots and we will do a for each loop. Like that. Okay, local variable should do for this. Shelving empty. Alright then, just empty. And we don't want that to be an array. So we'll reset that to false. Actually, no, we won't. We'll set it to... Yes, we will. So... Hang on, got my logic mixed up in my head now. So on each one of these, yeah, so we need to break that. For each loop with break. So what we want to know is the shelving unit completely empty? So for each one of those, if that is not empty, and also we need that instead. Yeah, so we start off assuming it to be empty. If any of the slots are not empty, then we set empty as false and we break the loop. So basically we're saying at least one slot has something in it, therefore we'll send that off to here. So empty can just go into there, that can go into there, and that can go into there. So yeah, so we're looping through, and as soon as we find one that's not empty, we pass that through along with our not empty. So that should come up as false, which means the NPC will go, right, okay, there's something here to do, and then we'll go and do it. Okay, so that's for checking for props, but we also need to check for shelving space. So if we do, actually we do the same thing. And we'll make a full on this one. Oops. So if we assume full, and then what we'll do is we'll go through here and then we will correct ourselves if it's not. So if slot is empty in this instance, then false and break out the loop. So what we're saying in this instance is, where's our output there? So assume it's full, loop through until we find one that's empty. So if we find one that's empty, then it can't be full. So we clear the full state, break out of the loop, and then we're passing the NPC whichever shelf slot is empty. So that basically gives the NPC an empty slot to go and put something on. So that's checking for an object to pick up, and that's checking for an empty shelf to put an object on. So that's both sides of that equation handled. And the tick that we're ticking here is basically taking things on and off of those shelves as those objects are removed. So that the moment the NPC picks it up, it will automatically flag as not being there because it's no longer overlapping. Sorry, I've been neglecting chat as usual. Yes, there is a new YouTube player. It's just a different plugin, basically. The old one I had, it kept getting updated and changed. And every time the plugin author changed something on his side, because it was streaming through his personal website, which I didn't realize until it started breaking. If he changed anything on his side, it would break the plugin. And of course, like once we've made the demo live, we can't then fix it because our internal branch is ahead of the demo branch. So it causes a real problem for us. The new plugin does something similar, but it uses a more robust third-party website. So it caches the YouTube streaming data via a third-party website and then passes that through to the game. But that is it's like a third-party API website, so it's not just some random guy's personal website. So it's a lot more robust. The reason we took it out is because if someone's firewall was blocking a certain URL, it was causing the game to crash, and it was one of the URLs that the plugin needed. So that was causing issues. So we took it out for testing reasons. But that aside, it does work, and that's the main thing. And it works more than the old one in the sense that it can also get thumbnails. It can do like the YouTube chat comments and everything as well. So it can do a lot more than the old one could. Good night, CSI. Have a good one. I'll try not to break too much. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we've got all of our stuff going on. So the last piece of this puzzle now is getting the NPC to query all of that and actually do something with it. So let's simplify this a minute. So this time, what we're going to do, yeah, so we still need to set up tags. So you need you need to be tagged with probe stash, and you need to be tagged with lab, just so we're still getting the right actors. Now we no longer need to do the whole get overlapping actors thing. I suppose we will just make sure that we are actually getting that, because if it's not, we need to do our delay. Oh, fire an error message. Failed to find probe stash. And then don't need to loop back anymore because we've got an event. So move prop. Yeah, so if for any reason that's not valid, that we will just wait a second and try again. If it is valid, we'll get this, and then we need to send a message through to that, which is going to require our execution pin. I need to remember what I called it. Check for props. So check for props. So this is where we get back our message there. So if shelving is empty, oops, then we need to fire a message, shelving empty. I'm tempted to collapse this to a macro, actually. I think, no, I'm going to collapse it to a macro. No, I'm not going to collapse it to a macro because this is just temporary. Right, so a couple of error messages there. So shelving is not empty. Then we need to get yeah, I suppose if we promote that and call it active shelf slot. So if the shelving's empty, we give up and just keep looping until it's full again. If it's not empty, we go reference our active shelf slot. So we don't need that. So the location we're walking to is going to be from here. So we're sending the NPC to the NPC location, which is relevant for this particular shelf slot. If we fail to reach shelf slot, that's another failure state. If we succeed, then if we grab our active shelf slot, we're going to set the rotation of the prop. Actually, well, even better than that, we will set that and use that instead. Okay, so we're grabbing our carried object from the shelf. We are setting our actor rotation and such. We're sending it to sleep. We're then attaching it to our NPC. We don't need to delay that anymore. So a moving prop. Right, and here's where we have to do our shelving bit. So same again, is valid index. So if we don't find a valid shelf, then I suppose fail to find lab. We kind of need to just drop the prop on the floor because otherwise we're just going to be standing there holding this prop the whole time. So we will have to do like basically all of that. We shall have to do that as part of our error state. So if it is a valid index, then we need to get a reference to it, and then shall, what do I call it? Check shelving space. Check shelving. My heater's gone off and my hands are freezing, so I'm finding it harder and harder to type. Right, so check shelving space. So let's move that out of the way. So if shelving is full, that's an interesting one. I think for now, if the shelving is full, we'll just drop it where we are. So if shelving is full, we'll do the same thing as we're doing here. Oops. And ideally, we will want to take the object to the shelf. No, it didn't fall. And drop it at the shelf. But that's going to require a bit more coding, and we're running out of time tonight, so for now we'll just drop the prop where it is. So we'll pick it up and go, no. So we've already picked up, right, so we will move our active shelf slot to that now. So we're done with our pickup shelf slot. We'll now use this one. So again, we need to break that. So we need the NPC location. Although saying that, no, I think we can do it actually. got a plan. Right, so we're going to walk to our location. So unable to reach lab shelving. Right, and that one is going to need to drop everything. But if we do reach our location, yeah. So we want to get our active shelf again. So I guess first of all, we want to know whether or not the slot is empty. So if slot is not empty, then we want to just drop the prop where it is. Oh, and set our overlay state according. In fact, do all that. Do all the things that we were doing before. So that's essentially, we're just dropping the prop on the floor at the location of the shelf. If the slot is empty, then we're going to do the same, I guess the same as we're doing there, but then we want to do set actor location on so we're going to need that, and then we're going to need our carried object. So if we do set actor location, and then we're going to move it to location of the slot. Without physics. I will add a delay on that actually. Okay. Right, let's see how much this breaks. Because I've just made a lot of stuff all at once without any testing. So let's give it a whirl. So first problem, failed to find probe stash. Okay. So probe stash, that's the name of the tag, and we're doing, oh, that'll be why. Just clear that. So that needs to be shelving. BPI shelving unit, and also that one shelving. Okay. Oh, of course, then that need reconnecting. Have the same at this end. Okay, let's try again. Holy crap, it worked. Need to fix the animation not resetting, but... Oh. Well, I dare say that was a perfect test, which is kind of incredible considering how much I did without testing first. Right, so set overlay state there, so when we blah 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 blah, may as well just dump all that into one, set that back to default. Right, that should sort out the animation. The other thing I wanted to do is just wanted to set the details on this so that we're actually walking up to the point. Actually, we'll take that down even lower, maybe just 5 centimeters, because we really want the NPC to be walking like right up to the shelf. Yeah, like that. Still stopping a bit far away. Thank you, Danger Mouse. No worries, Jim. Have a good one. Right, so if I grab a pumpkin, put it in a slot, she should put it back where it came from. Yes. So if I take one from the middle and then put it like there. Oh, she snatched it out of my hand. Great. So that means the slots are working. So basically I'm putting it on slot 2. Oh, it fell off. She should be able to grab it still. Yeah, and she'll put it back basically in the free slot. She's trashing the shelves, but I need to make sure that we disable physics. Good catch. Yeah, because so I think what's happening is there's some overlap there going on. So she's like, nah, and just dumps it down. Okay. So what I want to do is just grab myself a few additional pumpkins so I can add them to the shelf and see whether she starts piling them up over there. I suppose the other thing that it would be prudent to do, and this is why I'm now glad that we're doing it this way, is so that I can have the ability to just kind of tweak and fudge things over a bit without having to go back and manually update anything, because it will just get the vectors from exactly where they are. Space them out a bit better. Oh, I think think that was it. Yeah. I suppose the next thing I need to do is make sure that we do like proper like location facing on the props, because yeah, so he's chucking them on there with not a lot of due care and attention, so they're kind of scooting sideways, which would explain why the last slot was having issues. Right, so if I now plop a pumpkin on there, oops, sorry dude, knocked it off. Okay. Yeah, so as I hoped, oops, he's just going to pile them up because the shelves are full. So he's still going through and still going through the action of taking it to the shelf, but obviously, given the lack of shelf space available, he'll just dump it on the floor. So that's useful from a gameplay perspective, because it means that even though the shelves may be all full up, the NPCs are still moving the things to the right place. They're just not like doing that final action of putting it on the shelf. So I guess we need a secondary check at some point where if we take an object off the shelf, there needs to be some awareness that there are things on the floor, so an NPC will go, oh, that should be on the shelf, and plop it on the shelf. But yeah, so I would say as a prototype system goes, that is a success. We have an NPC moving stuff from one shelving unit to the other and putting those objects in an actual predefined slot, which is good. Huzzah! Okay, so Wednesday we'll be doing more work on the Magellan. We're Friday, aren't we? No, Sunday. Yeah, so Sunday working on the Caravella. I think we will do, if not more sublight stuff, then maybe we'll take some of these engineering systems with these cables, and we'll try cabling up the Caravella with actually segmented cabling that's running the live tick, and then we'll see about having some faults, see whether we can get the NPCs to actually path to those locations and actually fix those faults properly. That is the job of the Caravella, to test these systems, so that's perhaps a good time to start rolling it out. But yeah, so I think we achieved a lot there tonight, so I'm looking forward to getting it added to the game. Okay, so have a nice weekend everyone, and I shall see you on Sunday. Bye for now. Oh, it's killed my mouse again. No. Bye for now.